Jake Morrison walked down the long metal hallway of Kepler Station. His boots made hard sounds on the floor. The lights above were too bright and made everything look cold. He held a data pad in his hands. The words on it made his stomach feel sick. 6 months ago, everything changed for humans. They met aliens for the first time, but it was not the happy meeting that people in movies always dreamed about. The aliens attacked first. Their ships were fast and powerful. Many humans died in the first battles. The aliens called themselves Zephyrians. They seemed to hate humans right from the start. Jake stopped at a heavy metal door. 2 guards stood there with big guns. They nodded at him. One guard put his hand on a scanner. The door made a loud beeping sound and opened. "She's in there, sir," the guard said. His voice was flat and cold. The alien. Jake looked at the guard. The man's face showed disgust and fear. Jake understood why. Everyone was scared of the aliens. They were the enemy. They killed humans. They wanted to destroy Earth. But Jake felt something different as he walked into the room. He felt sorry for what he might have to do. The room was small and gray. There were no windows. One chair sat in the middle. Cameras watched from every corner. On the other side of a thick glass wall was another room. This one was even smaller. And there she was. Jake had read the reports. They called her Asset X7. They said she was dangerous. They said she was a soldier from an enemy ship. They said she had information that could save Earth. But looking at her now, Jake saw something else. She was small, much smaller than he expected. Her skin was pale blue and seemed to glow softly in the dim light. Strange patterns moved across her arms and face like tiny lights under her skin. Her hair was silver and fell to her shoulders. She sat on a metal bench in the corner of her cell. Her knees were pulled up to her chest, her arms wrapped around her legs. When the door opened, she looked up. Her eyes were large and golden. They were full of fear. Jake sat down in the chair. He looked at his datapad again. Admiral Kane's orders were clear. Get information from the alien. Use any method needed. Find out about their weapons, their ships, their plans. The survival of humanity depended on it. "Hello," Jake said. His voice echoed in the small room. The alien girl looked at him. She did not speak. Jake tried again. "Do you understand me?" This time she nodded, just a little. The lights under her skin flickered faster. "What is your name?" Jake asked. She was quiet for a long time. Then she spoke. Her voice was soft and musical. "Lyra." "Lyra," Jake repeated. It was a pretty name. "My name is Jake." She watched him carefully. Her golden eyes moved from his face to his uniform to the cameras in the corners. "Are you going to hurt me?" she asked. Her words were careful and slow. She spoke English, but with a strange accent. Jake felt something twist in his chest. This was not what he expected. The report said she was a soldier, but she looked like a scared teenager. Her voice shook when she spoke. "I don't want to hurt you," Jake said. It was the truth. "But you will," Lyra said. It was not a question. She knew what was coming. Jake looked at his datapad again. The orders were there in black and white. Colonel Hayes had been very clear in the briefing that morning. Dr. Webb, the military psychologist, had explained the enhanced questioning techniques they wanted Jake to use. Captain Stone from Intelligence had provided a list of information they needed. "Tell me about your ship," Jake said. He tried to keep his voice firm and professional. Lyra's lights flickered again. "It was not a warship," she said quietly. "The report says it was a scout ship, gathering information about human defenses." "No." Lyra shook her head. "We were mapping stars, looking for safe paths through space. We got lost." Jake frowned. This was not what the intelligence report said. "You're lying." "I am not lying." Lyra looked right at him. "We study stars and planets. We make maps so ships can travel safely. That is what I do. What I did." "If you were just making maps, why did your ship run when our ships found it?" Lyra's lights dimmed. Because we were afraid. We heard stories about humans, terrible stories. What kind of stories? That humans kill first and ask questions later. That humans take prisoners and hurt them until they break. That humans have no mercy for anyone different from them. Jake felt cold. He thought about the orders on his datapad, about the enhanced techniques Dr. Webb wanted him to use, about the drugs they wanted him to give her to make her more cooperative. How old are you? Jake asked suddenly. I have lived 17 cycles, Lyra said. In your time, that is about 19 years. 19 years old, just a teenager. Jake thought about his own daughter back on Earth. She was 21, not much older than this alien girl sitting scared and alone in a cell. The door behind Jake opened. Colonel Hayes walked in with Captain Stone. They both looked angry. Lieutenant Commander Morrison, Colonel Hayes said. His voice was sharp. Why haven't you begun the interrogation? Jake stood up. I was establishing contact, sir. Building trust. Trust? Captain Stone laughed. It was not a nice sound. She's the enemy, Morrison. She's not here to be your friend. She's here to give us information that will save human lives. Sir, she says she's not military personnel. She claims to be a civilian navigator. Of course she says that, Colonel Hayes snapped. That's what they all say. Stop being soft, Morrison. This alien bitch knows things that could end this war. Your job is to get those things out of her, by any means necessary. Jake looked back at Lyra through the glass. She was watching them talk even though she probably could not hear the words. Her lights were very dim now. She looked even smaller and more frightened. I understand my orders, sir, Jake said. Good. Dr. Webb will be here tomorrow with some new tools to help loosen her tongue. Make sure she's ready. Colonel Hayes turned to leave, then stopped. And Morrison? Remember what's at stake here. Earth is counting on you to do your job. Don't let feelings get in the way of duty. After they left, Jake sat back down. He looked at Lyra through the glass wall. She was still watching him with those golden eyes. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Lyra nodded. I know, she said. You are not like them. That night, Jake could not sleep. He kept thinking about Lyra's words, about her fear, about the orders waiting on his datapad, about what Dr. Webb would bring tomorrow. He thought about what made someone human, and he wondered if following orders that hurt an innocent person was the right thing to do, even if it might save other people. The answer scared him more than the aliens ever could. Jake came back the next morning with real food, not the gray nutrient bars that prisoners usually got. He brought soup and bread from the officer's mess. It was still warm. Lyra looked surprised when he passed the tray through the food slot in her cell door. Why? She asked. Because you must be hungry, Jake said. Real hungry, not just needing fuel. She picked up the spoon with careful fingers. Her hands shook a little. Thank you. Jake watched her eat. The lights under her skin grew, a bit brighter with each bite. He realized the pattern showed how she felt. Dim when scared or sad. Brighter when happy or safe. Tell me about your world, Jake said. Lyra stopped eating and looked at him. This is not what interrogators usually ask. I'm not like most interrogators. She was quiet for a moment. Then she began to speak. My world is called Zelani. It has 3 moons and purple skies. The cities float on lakes that glow at night. We build our homes in tall trees that sing in the wind. As she talked, her voice became less afraid. Jake found himself really listening. Her world sounded beautiful. Nothing like the cold metal of space stations or the crowded cities of Earth. What do your people think of humans? Jake asked. Lyra's lights dimmed again. They are terrified. The stories about your kind, they say humans are like machines made of flesh, that you feel no pain for others, that you destroy everything you touch. And what do you think? I thought that too. Until yesterday. She looked at him through the glass. You brought me food. You asked my name. The others, they look at me like I am a thing. You look at me like I am a person. Jake felt that twist in his chest again. You are a person, Lyra. The door opened behind him. Dr. Webb walked in carrying a metal case. He was a thin man with cold eyes and no smile. Behind him came Sergeant Amy Collins, Jake's assistant. She looked uncomfortable. Ready to get started, Morrison? Dr. Webb opened his case. Inside were bottles and syringes. This will make our job much easier. Jake looked at the drugs. He knew what they were for. To make Lyra confused and scared. To break down her ability to think clearly. To make her say things she would never say if her mind was clear. Sir, I think we should try talking first, Jake said. Dr. Webb laughed. Talking? Morrison, this is war. We don't have time for tea parties. He picked up a syringe. This stuff will make her cooperative. Very cooperative. Through the glass, Jake saw Lyra press herself against the far wall of her cell. Her lights were flashing in quick, scared. Patterns, please, she whispered. Even through the glass they could hear her fear. Sergeant Collins shifted beside them. Sir, she said quietly. Maybe we should... Should what, Sergeant? Dr. Webb snapped. Should let this alien keep her secrets while human soldiers die. Should treat the enemy with kindness while they plan to destroy Earth. She's just a kid, Collins said. Her voice was barely above a whisper. She's an alien, Dr. Webb corrected, and aliens killed my brother at the Battle of Proxima. They're all the same, all killers. Jake watched as Dr. Webb prepared the injection. His hands were steady and sure. He had done this before. Wait, Jake said. Give me more time. I'm getting information from her. She's starting to trust me. Trust is not what we need, Morrison. We need intelligence. Fast and complete. Dr. Webb moved toward the cell door. That's when Jake saw something that changed everything. Through the glass wall, he could see into the next cell. There was a human prisoner there, a young soldier who had been captured during a recent battle. The man was badly hurt. He lay on his bench, bleeding from wounds that had not been treated properly. Lyra saw him too. Without thinking about her own fear, she moved to the wall that connected her cell to his. She began to hum. It was a soft, beautiful sound. The lights under her skin pulsed gently in rhythm with her voice. The wounded human soldier opened his eyes. The pain in his face seemed to ease a little. He looked through the small window between the cells and saw Lyra. Instead of fear, his face showed wonder. She was singing to him, trying to comfort him. An alien girl, scared and trapped, was trying to help a human soldier feel better. Sir, Sergeant Collins said. Her voice was different now, stronger. Look at that. Dr. Webb paused. He saw what they all saw. An enemy showing. Kindness to someone who should have been her enemy too. Tricks, he said, but his voice was not as sure as before. Alien mind games. No, Jake said. He was sure now. That's not a trick. That's compassion. Jake turned to Dr. Webb. I need more time. No drugs, just talking. You have one day, Dr. Webb said. He closed his case with a snap. If you don't get results, we do this my way. After they left, Jake sat down in his chair again. Lyra was still humming to the wounded soldier. The man had closed his eyes, but he looked peaceful for the first time since Jake had seen him. That was kind of you, Jake said. Lyra stopped humming and looked at him. He is hurt. Pain is the same in all beings. Even human beings? Yes. Even humans. She came closer to the glass between them. I do not understand why our people are fighting. We are not so different. The reports say your people attacked us first. The reports say your people attacked us first too. Lyra sat down across from him. Maybe both reports are wrong. Jake thought about this. Tell me what really happened. One of our science ships was exploring a new star system. We did not know humans were there. Your ships came out of nowhere and started shooting. Our ship tried to run, but your weapons were too strong. Many of my friends died. But our reports say your ship fired first. With what? It was a research ship. No weapons. only tools for studying planets and stars. Lyra's lights flashed with what looked like anger. Your people shot first and asked questions never. Jake felt sick. If Lyra was telling the truth, then the war had started because of fear and misunderstanding. Both sides thought they were defending themselves. What was your ship really doing out there? Looking for new trade routes, safe paths between star systems. My job was to make maps so both our peoples could travel without getting lost or running into dangerous things like black holes or solar storms. Trade routes your people wanted to trade with us? Some did. There are many among my people who thought humans might be good friends. We have things you need. You have things we need. It made sense to try. Jake stared at her. If this was true, then everything was wrong. The war, the deaths, the hatred, all of it based on a terrible mistake. Why should I believe you? Lyra was quiet for a long time. Then she said, because I could lie and tell you what you want to hear. I could make up stories about secret weapons and invasion plans. That would make your leaders happy and maybe they would treat me better. But I am telling you the truth, even though the truth will not save me. That afternoon, Jake did something he had never done before. He broke protocol. He went to see the wounded human soldier in the next cell. The man's name was Paul Green. He was a pilot whose ship had been shot down in a recent battle. He was dying from his injuries, but he was alert enough to talk. That alien girl, Paul said weakly. She's been singing to me for days. Makes the pain easier somehow. What do you remember about your battle? Jake asked. Strange thing, Paul said. Their ship didn't fight back much, almost like they didn't want to hurt us. They were running. More than fighting. Maybe they were just cowards. No. Paul shook his head. I've seen cowards run. This was different. They seemed confused, like they didn't understand why we were shooting at them. Jake left Paul's cell with more questions than answers. That evening, he sat in his quarters and thought about everything he had learned. His datapad chimed. New orders from Admiral Kane. Tomorrow, if Jake didn't get useful intelligence from Lyra, Dr. Webb would take over completely. They would use drugs, fear, and pain to break her mind. Jake looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there was Lyra's home world with its purple skies and singing trees. Somewhere out there were her people, probably as scared of humans as humans were of them. He thought about the wounded soldier and Lyra's songs, about her kindness to someone who should have been her enemy, about the truth in her golden eyes when she spoke, and he made a choice that would change everything. Tomorrow he would not follow orders. Tomorrow he would try to save them all. Jake woke up early that morning with a plan. He could not stop Dr. Webb from taking over Lyra's case, but he could try to get help from someone higher up, someone who might listen to reason. He sent a coded message to Dr. Helen Price on Earth. She was a scientist who worked with the government on alien contact policies. Jake had met her once at a conference. She seemed like someone who would care about doing the right thing, but before he could do anything else, alarms started ringing throughout the station. Jake ran to the detention level. Guards were everywhere. Colonel Hayes stood outside Lyra's cell, his face red with anger. What happened? Jake asked. Your alien friend tried to escape last night, Hayes said. She nearly killed 2 guards. Jake looked through the glass. Lyra sat in the corner of her cell. Her face was bruised and her arm hung at a wrong angle. Blood stained her silver hair. The lights under her skin were barely visible. She doesn't look like she could hurt anyone, Jake said. Don't let her fool you. These things are stronger than they look. Hayes turned to face Jake. This proves what I've been saying. She's dangerous. Webb is taking over now. Sir, I request permission to question her about the escape attempt. Hayes looked at him suspiciously. Why? If she tried to escape, she must have had a plan. Maybe she knows things about the station that could be a security risk. Fine. You have 10 minutes. Then Webb takes over for good. Jake went into the cell area alone. Lyra looked up when she heard his footsteps. One of her golden eyes was swollen shut. What really happened? Jake asked quietly. The wounded human, Lyra whispered. Her voice was weak and painful. Paul. He was dying. I could hear him calling out in pain during the night. So you tried to escape to help him? I tried to get to him. My people have healing knowledge. Could have helped him live. Jake felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. You tried to break out of your cell to help a human soldier? Pain is pain. Death is death. It does not matter what species feels them. The guards said you attacked them. They would not let me help. They thought I was trying to escape to freedom. I just wanted to save him. A tear ran down her bruised face. Is he still alive? Jake checked his datapad. Paul Green had died. During the night. The medical report said his injuries were too severe. He might have lived if he had received better treatment earlier. I'm sorry, Jake said. Lyra closed her eyes. The lights under her skin flickered once and went dark. Dr. Webb arrived an hour later with Captain Stone and 2 guards carrying more equipment. Jake had been moved out of the interrogation completely. Now he could only watch through cameras. From another room, Sergeant Collins sat beside him watching the monitors. Neither of them spoke as Dr. Webb set up his instruments. This is wrong, Collins finally said. Yes, it is. Are we going to do anything about it? Jake looked at her. Are you willing to risk your career? Maybe go to prison? Collins watched as Dr. Webb prepared another syringe. On the screen, they could see Lyra pressed against the wall, shaking with fear. If we don't do something, I don't think I'll be able to live with myself, Collins said. That was when Jake's datapad chimed. A message from Dr. Helen Price on Earth. She had received his report and was very concerned. She was coming to Kepler Station immediately with a team of inspectors, but that would take 3 days. Webb was starting his enhanced interrogation. Now Jake made his decision. Get me Commander Torres from the science department. Tell her it's urgent. Nina Torres was one of the few officers on the station who had spoken against the harsh treatment of alien prisoners. She was also someone Jake trusted. Torres arrived within an hour. Jake showed her the videos of Lyra trying to help Paul, along with all the information he had gathered about her real background. She's not military, Torres said after reviewing everything. She's a civilian navigator, and if what she says is true about the trade routes, then this war is based on a huge misunderstanding. Can you help her? Not officially, but there are others on this station who think we're handling this wrong. A few of us have been talking. Torres introduced Jake to 5 other officers who shared their concerns. There was Lieutenant Carl Hayes, the colonel's younger brother who disagreed with his family's harsh views, Dr. Susan Mills from the medical department, Chief Engineer Pete Collins, Amy's father, and 2 security officers named Dan Scott and Lisa Brown. We've been waiting for someone to take the lead on this, Torres said. Someone willing to stick their neck out. What are you suggesting? We get her to neutral space. There's a meeting happening in the beta sector. Peace activists from both species trying to find a way to end this war. Jake stared at her. That's treason. Maybe. Or maybe it's the most human thing we could do. They spent the next day planning while Dr. Webb continued his work on Lyra. Jake could barely watch the video feeds. The drugs made her confused and frightened. She spoke in broken sentences about things that made no sense. Webb was destroying her mind to get information she did not have. But late at night, when the drugs wore off a little, Lyra would sing. Soft, sad songs in her own language. The guards reported that other prisoners, both human and alien, grew quiet when she sang. Even the angry ones seemed to find peace in her voice. She's trying to comfort everyone, Dr. Mills observed. Even while they're torturing her, she's thinking about others. The plan was simple but dangerous. During the next prisoner transfer, they would create a distraction and get Lyra to a small courier ship. Torres had found a pilot willing to take them to neutral space. Jake knew this would end his career, probably land him in prison for the rest of his life. But when he thought about Lyra's kindness to Paul, about her songs in the night, about the truth in her golden eyes, he knew he could not stand by and watch her be destroyed. The night before the escape, Jake managed to get a few minutes alone with Lyra. The drugs had worn off, but she looked broken. The bright patterns under her skin were gone. She sat in the corner like a wounded animal. Lyra, he said softly. She looked up. For a moment, she did not seem to recognize him. It's Jake. Remember? Jake. Her voice was barely a whisper. You brought me soup. I'm going to get you out of here. She shook her head slowly. Cannot escape. Too many guards. Too many walls. Trust me. Lyra looked at him for a long time. Then she said, You are the only human I trust. Why? Because you see me. Not the alien. Not the enemy. Not the asset. You see me. Jake felt his throat close up. What you did for Paul. Trying to help him. That was the most human thing I've ever seen anyone do. Human? Caring about someone else more than yourself. Showing kindness to someone different from you. That's what makes us human, and you're more human than most of the humans on this station. For the first time in days, a few lights flickered under Lyra's skin. The next morning, everything went wrong. Colonel Hayes had suspected something. He had extra guards everywhere. The prisoner transfer was canceled. Worse, Dr. Webb announced that he was ready for the final phase of Lyra's interrogation. We're going to break her completely, Webb told the assembled officers. Strip away everything that makes her who she is until only the information remains. Jake looked at the faces around him. Some showed excitement. Others looked uncomfortable, but said nothing. Only his small group of allies looked horrified. This is it, Torres whispered to him. If we don't act now, there won't be anything left of her to save. Jake nodded. The careful plan was useless now. They would have to improvise. As Dr. Webb prepared his final assault on Lyra's mind, Jake and his team made their own preparations. They were about to commit treason against their own species. But looking at Lyra's broken form through the monitors, Jake realized something important. Sometimes being a traitor to your government was the only way to be loyal to your humanity. The battle for Lyra's soul was about to begin. Jake watched the monitors as Dr. Webb entered Lyra's cell with his final set of tools. She was so weak she could barely lift her head. The constant drugs and fear had broken her down to almost nothing. This is inhuman, Dr. Mills whispered beside him. No, Jake said quietly. This is what happens when we forget how to be human. Torres touched his shoulder. The courier ship is ready. Chief Collins has created a power fluctuation that will hit the detention level in 20 minutes. That's our window. Jake nodded. His team was small but determined. Torres, Collins, Dr. Mills, and the 2 security officers who had volunteered to help. They were risking everything for one alien girl who had shown more humanity than the humans, holding her. But as they moved toward the detention level, alarms began to ring throughout the station. Security breach on level 7, the station's voice announced. All personnel to battle stations. That's not our alarm, Torres said, confused. Jake checked his datapad. A new message flashed red. Zephyrian attack fleet approaching. All military personnel report for duty. The rescue had just become much more complicated. Do we abort? Collins asked. Jake thought about Lyra, alone and broken in her cell while her own people approached to attack the station. If the Zephyrians broke through, they would find her in the hands of her captors. They would see what humans had done to her. No, Jake said. We go now. This might be our only chance. The station shook as the first weapons hit the outer shields. Emergency lights bathed everything in red. In the chaos, Jake's team moved through corridors filled with running soldiers. They reached the detention level just as Chief Collins triggered his power surge. The lights went out. Emergency power kicked in, but the cell door's electronic locks had reset. Jake found Lyra's cell in the dim red light. She was unconscious on the floor. Dr. Webb knelt beside her with a syringe in his hand. Stop, Jake shouted. Webb looked up, his face twisted with anger. Morrison, what are you doing here? I'm stopping you from destroying an innocent person. Innocent? Webb laughed bitterly. Her people are attacking us right now. She's probably been sending them signals. With what? You've kept her drugged and locked up for days. Jake moved toward the cell, but Webb pulled out a gun. I won't let you interfere with this interrogation. Earth's survival depends on what she knows. She doesn't know anything. She's a navigator, not a soldier. The station shook again, harder this time. Dust fell from the ceiling. Torres and the others arrived behind Jake. "The shields are failing," she reported. "We need to go now." Webb pointed his gun at all of them. "None of you are going anywhere. You're all traitors." That's when the lights went out completely. In the darkness, Jake heard sounds of struggle. When the emergency power came back on, Webb was on the floor. Collins stood over him, holding the gun. "Sorry, sir," Collins said. "But my daughter has to live in the world we're creating here. I want it to be a better one." Jake opened Lyra's cell and knelt beside her. She was barely breathing. Her skin was cold and the lights beneath it were completely dark. "Lyra," he said softly, "can you hear me?" Her golden eyes opened slowly. "Jake, I'm here. We're getting you out." She tried to sit up but was too weak. Dr. Mills checked her pulse and shook her head grimly. "She's dying," Mills said. "The drugs, the stress, the lack of proper care, her body is shutting down. Can you help her?" "Not here. Maybe if we can get her to the medical bay on the courier ship." Jake picked Lyra up in his arms. She weighed almost nothing. Her head rested against his chest, and he could feel how cold she was. "Why?" she whispered. "Because it's the right thing to do." They moved through the station toward the hangar bay where Torres had hidden their ship. But the corridors were full of soldiers running to battle stations. The Zephyrian attack was getting stronger. "This way." Torres led them through a maintenance tunnel. The space was cramped and dark, but it avoided the main corridors. They were halfway to the hangar when they heard voices behind them. "They went this way," Colonel Hayes shouted. "Find them." Jake looked down at Lyra in his arms. Her breathing was getting weaker. "Leave me," she whispered. "Save yourselves." "No," Jake said firmly. "We all get out or none of us do." They reached the hangar bay, but guards were already there waiting. The courier ship sat only 50 meters away, but it might as well have been on another planet. "Give up, Morrison," Colonel Hayes called out. "You're surrounded." Jake's team took cover behind cargo containers. The guards had them trapped. "There's too many of them," Scott said. "We can't fight our way through." That's when the hangar bay doors exploded inward. Zephyrian soldiers poured through the breach, their weapons firing at everything that moved. In the chaos that followed, Jake carried Lyra toward their ship. Laser fire crossed the hangar in deadly patterns. Human and alien soldiers fought each other while Jake's team ran through the middle of it all. One of the Zephyrian soldiers saw them and raised his weapon. Jake thought they were dead. But then the soldier saw Lyra in Jake's arms. The alien warrior lowered his gun and said something in his own language. Other Zephyrian soldiers gathered around them. Jake could not understand their words, but their meaning was clear. They recognized Lyra. They knew she was one of their own. The largest Zephyrian, who seemed to be their leader, approached Jake. He spoke in broken English. "You help Starsinger?" Jake realized they were talking about Lyra. "Starsinger? She makes maps of stars, sings to guide ships safely." The alien leader looked at Lyra's condition and his face darkened with anger. "What'd you do to her?" "I didn't do this," Jake said quickly. "I'm trying to save her." The Zephyrian stared at him for a long moment. Then he spoke to his soldiers in their own language. They formed a protective circle around Jake's team. "You come with us," the leader said. "We take Starsinger home." "No," Jake said. "There's another way, a place where both our peoples meet in peace." He quickly explained about the neutral zone and the peace talks. As he spoke, Lyra stirred in his arms. "Commander Kree," she whispered in English, looking at the Zephyrian leader. "Little star," Kree replied gently. "We came to find you." "Don't fight them," Lyra said weakly. "They're not all bad. Jake protected me." Kree looked at Jake with new understanding. "You are Jake Morrison? The one who brought food? Who sang back when Starsinger sang to you?" Jake was confused. "I never sang to her." "Your kindness sang," Kree explained, in ways louder than voice. The battle around them was ending. More Zephyrian ships had arrived, and the human forces were Retreating deeper into the station. We must go, Kree said. Station will be destroyed soon. Take us to the neutral zone, Jake said. Let us try to stop this war before more people die. Kree studied him carefully. Here was a human asking to be taken to negotiate peace while holding one of their own who had been tortured by his people. Why you do this? Kree asked. Jake looked down at Lyra. Her lights were starting to flicker weakly under her skin. She was alive because of the medicine Dr. Mills had given her, but she was still very sick. Because she taught me something important, Jake said. She showed me that caring about others, even enemies, is what makes us worth saving. Both our species. Kree nodded slowly. Starsinger always see what others cannot. If she trusts you, then we try your way. As they boarded the Zephyrian ship, Jake looked back at Kepler Station. Explosions lit up its hull as the battle continued. Human and alien soldiers were dying because of fear and misunderstanding. But in his arms, Lyra was getting stronger. Her lights were glowing brighter as the clean air and warmth of the ship helped her heal. And beside them, Commander Kree was already sending messages to the peace negotiators in the neutral zone. Maybe, just maybe, they could end this war before it destroyed both species. The ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying them toward their last hope for peace. Behind them, Kepler Station burned. Ahead of them lay the uncertain future of two worlds that had forgotten how to trust. But in between, in the quiet space of a ship racing through the stars, a human and an alien held each other close and dared to hope that love might be stronger than fear. The neutral zone was a small space station floating between human and Zephyrian territory. It had been built secretly by peace groups from both species who believed the war was a terrible mistake. Jake had never seen anything like it. The station was half human design and half Zephyrian. The corridors curved like Zephyrian ships, but the lights were warm like human spaces. Both species worked together, building something new. Lyra was getting better. The doctors here, both human and alien, had worked together to heal her body and mind. The lights under her skin were bright again, making soft patterns when she was happy. Jake sat beside her bed in the medical center. Through the window, he could see both human and Zephyrian ships docked at the station. How do you feel? He asked. Like myself again, Lyra said. Her voice was stronger now. The bad dreams are going away. Dr. Helen Price, who had arrived from Earth the day before, entered the room with Commander Kree and several other leaders from both species. Lyra, Dr. Price said gently, we need to ask you some questions, but only if you feel ready. Lyra nodded. I want to help stop the fighting. Tell us what really happened when your ship first met human ships. Lyra closed her eyes and remembered. We were mapping a new star system. Looking for safe paths for trade ships, we found planets that might be good for both our peoples to share. Share? Asked Captain Ellen Hayes, a human negotiator. Yes. Some planets are better for humans, others better for Zephyrians. We could both benefit. Commander Kree spoke up. Our scientists had the same idea. We wanted to meet humans as friends. But something went wrong, Dr. Price said. Fear, Lyra said simply. Both sides were afraid of the unknown. When our ships met, someone fired first. We still don't know who, but both sides thought they were being attacked. Jake listened as she explained how the misunderstanding had grown into hatred, how both species had been told the other was evil and dangerous, how young soldiers on both sides had died because old leaders were too proud to admit they might be wrong. The war can end, Lyra said, but both sides must choose to trust instead of fear. That's when alarms started ringing throughout the station. Jake looked out the window and saw human warships approaching. Big ones, with Admiral Kane's flag flying from the lead ship. They found us, Dr. Price said grimly. Admiral Kane's voice came over the station's communication system. This is Admiral Kane of the Earth Defense Force. You are harboring traitors and giving aid to the enemy. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Commander Kree moved to the window. His own ships were moving to protect the station, but they were outnumbered. So much for peaceful negotiation, he said sadly. Jake stood up. An idea was forming in his mind. A dangerous idea, but maybe their only chance? "What if we don't fight?" he said. Everyone looked at him. "What if we show them something they don't expect, like what?" Dr. Price asked. Jake looked at Lyra. She was sitting up in her bed, the lights under her skin glowing with determination. "We show them the truth," Lyra said, understanding his idea. "Both sides, at the same time." Jake nodded. "We broadcast everything. The real story of how the war started, what they did to you on the station, how both species could live in peace." "Admiral Kane will never listen," Captain Hayes said. "Maybe not. But his soldiers might. And the people watching back on Earth." Dr. Price was already working on her datapad. "I can patch into both human and Zephyrian communication networks. If we broadcast from here, both sides will receive it." Lyra stood up from her bed, still weak but determined. "I will speak to both peoples." As the human and Zephyrian fleets faced each other outside the station, Jake and Lyra prepared for the most important speech of their lives. The broadcast began with Lyra speaking directly to the camera. Jake stood beside her, his hand on her. "Shoulder for support, my name is Lyra," she said. Her voice was clear and strong. "I am Zephyrian. For many days I was prisoner on human station. They hurt me, they tried to break my mind, but one human chose different path." She looked at Jake. "Jake Morrison showed me kindness when others showed cruelty. He brought me food when I was hungry. He listened when I spoke truth. He risked everything to save me from those who would destroy my spirit." Jake spoke next. "I was ordered to use Lyra as a weapon against her people, to break her will and steal her knowledge. But when I looked at her, I saw not an enemy but a person, a young woman far from home, scared and alone." Lyra continued the story. She told about trying to help the wounded human soldier Paul, about how she wanted to heal him even though he was supposed to be her enemy, about the songs she sang to comfort everyone in the prison, human and alien alike. "Pain is the same in all beings," she said. "Hope is the same. Love is the same. We are different species, but we are not so different." Jake explained how the war had started, the misunderstanding, the fear, the rush to judgment on both sides. "We could have been friends," Jake said. "We could have explored the galaxy together, sharing knowledge and worlds. Instead, we chose to be enemies because it seemed easier than trying to understand each other." As they spoke, something amazing happened. On both fleets, soldiers began to listen. Many of them were young people who had joined the military because they believed they were protecting their homes, but now they were hearing a different story. Admiral Kane tried to cut off the broadcast, but it was too late. The signal was being repeated by news stations on both Earth and the Zephyrian homeworld. Millions of people were watching. Lyra held up a data crystal. "This contains the star maps my ship was carrying when we first met, safe routes through space that both our peoples could use, trade paths that would make both worlds richer, meeting places where we could share knowledge and culture." She looked directly into the camera. "This was what we were bringing you, not weapons, not invasion plans, but the gift of friendship." Jake stepped forward. "I am Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. I stand here accused of treason against my own species, but I believe that showing compassion to those different from us is not treason. It is the highest duty of any intelligent being." The broadcast ended. For a moment, space was quiet around the station. Both fleets hung motionless, waiting. Then, something unexpected happened. On one of the human ships, a young officer named Lieutenant Carol White opened a communication channel. "Admiral Kane," she said, her voice broadcasting to both fleets. "I joined the military to protect innocent people, not to torture them." Other voices joined hers. Officers and crew members from both fleets began to speak up. They had families at home, they had dreams of peace. They were tired of fighting a war that made no sense. Admiral Kane's voice cut through the chatter. "All ships, prepare to fire on the station." But only half his fleet responded. The other ships stayed where they were. Commander Kree's voice came, over the communication system. "I am Kree of the Zephyrian 4th Fleet. I came here to destroy humans who hurt our Star Singer. But I see now that not all humans are the same. Some, like Jake Morrison, choose honor over hatred. More Zephyrian ships broke formation, moving closer to the station in a gesture of protection rather than attack. Dr. Price rushed to the window. "It's working," she said with amazement. "The crews are choosing peace over their orders." Admiral Kane made one last desperate attempt. He ordered his remaining loyal ships to attack the station. But as they moved forward, both human and Zephyrian, ships moved to block them. The battle that followed was brief and one-sided. The peace-supporting ships far outnumbered those still loyal to the war. Admiral Kane's ship was disabled, and he was taken prisoner by his own people. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. The broadcast had shown both worlds what the war really was, a tragedy built on misunderstanding and fear. Leaders on both sides who wanted to continue fighting found themselves facing populations that demanded peace. Jake and Lyra became the first human Zephyrian diplomatic team. They traveled to both Earth and the Zephyrian homeworld, telling their story and helping to build trust between the species. The neutral zone station became the center of a new alliance. Trade routes opened. Scientists from both species began working together. Children learned each other's languages in school. Jake kept his promise to protect Lyra, but she had become much more than someone who needed protection. She was now a leader, a bridge between worlds, and the closest friend he had ever had. On the first anniversary of the peace treaty, Jake and Lyra stood together on the observation deck of what was now called Harmony Station. Outside the windows, human and Zephyrian ships worked side by side, building new homes among the stars. "Do you ever regret it?" Lyra asked. "Giving up your military career to save one alien girl?" Jake smiled. "I didn't give up anything. I found something much more valuable." "What's that?" "I found out what it really means to be human. It's not about being the strongest or the smartest or the most feared. It's about choosing to care for others, even when they're different from you, even when it's hard, even when it costs you everything." Lyra's lights glowed brighter, making patterns Jake had learned meant deep happiness. "You taught me the same thing," she said. "That being Zephyrian means more than just belonging to one species. It means belonging to the community of all intelligent life." They watched as a group of human and Zephyrian children played together in the station's garden. The children,